দর্শক আমন্ত্রণ RTV নিয়মিত আলোচনা অনুষ্ঠান ফোর্থরাইটে আপনাদের সঙ্গে আছে মিস্টার আশিক রহমান। এই অনুষ্ঠানে আমরা কথা বলি বিভিন্ন সেক্টরের বিশেষজ্ঞদের সাথে যারা বাংলাদেশে কাজের অভিজ্ঞতা, উদ্দেশ্য এবং ভবিষ্যৎ পরিকল্পনা নিয়ে আলোচনা করেন। আমাদের আজকের অতিথি আন্তর্জাতিক সংস্থা কেয়ার বাংলাদেশের কান্ট্রি ডিরেক্টর মিস জেমি তারজি। Very welcome, Miss Jamie, at RTV Studio.
Thank you very much.
How is everything?
Everything's great, thank you.
Miss Jamie, we see that you have an excellent career profile. How did you get into your career?
Well, actually, you might know that I'm from Australia, and when I was in Australia, I worked as a psychologist, and I worked in the area of community health, women's health, psychiatric disability, and lastly as a counsellor and psychologist in a family violence prevention program. So having had the experience of working in community development, health, I wanted to work overseas. So actually I first worked as a volunteer. I went to Pakistan to work with Afghan refugees in 2002.
So you are acquainted with this environment. How did you find it?
Fantastic, it's changed my life.
It changed your life?
That's right. I came to South Asia in 2002 and I've never left.
How do you become a part of CARE?
Well, actually, when I worked in Kabul, in Afghanistan, I worked with an Afghan women's NGO. And from there, I was looking for the next challenge, the next position. And I knew CARE had a very strong reputation in Afghanistan and did very good work. And it felt very much aligned with the kind of work and the philosophy that I had. So I took that opportunity to apply. And I started to work with CARE in 2005.
What is your experience here all these 10 years?
It's been a great experience because I've worked with CARE Afghanistan and now with CARE Bangladesh. And in both countries, CARE has a very long history and a deep relationship with the people of the country. And this is fantastic. It gives us a real strength and a real connection to the country. And it makes me feel very much like the work we are doing is important to people.
What is your finding? What is the difference to work in Afghanistan and Bangladesh?
The two countries are very different. Very different political environment. They might be in South Asia and they might be joined together by Islam, but still the culture is very different. And I think the challenges in the countries are very different.
What is the cultural difference you find?
There are some similarities. I think both Afghans and Bangladeshis are very hospitable and friendly. But I think actually it's more in terms of the environment and the politics. So you know Afghanistan is still very much suffering from conflict and in a post-conflict environment. Bangladesh has a completely different political situation. And also Bangladeshis, you know, there is a different Bengali culture here. There is a culture, you know,
you
Bangladeshis.
Like it?
Yes, I do. I like to laugh, to talk, to have
adar, to have a good time. It was not scary for you to work in Afghanistan?
No, it was not. No, it was very interesting. I went there first in 2002 and 2003. And back then it was a different time. It wasn't so dangerous as it is now. Back then you would hear lots of bombs and rockets.
Exactly.
But actually I did not feel under threat. In fact, I even used to drive a car back then.
Really?
And I would go to places that were now inaccessible and quite hard to get to.
What about your family? They were not scary?
Yes, of course.
That you were working?
My mother was very unhappy.
Mother was very unhappy?
Yes.
And she must be happy now because you are serving in Bangladesh.
That's right. She's very happy because I have lots of children now, and you know I live in Bangladesh. She's happy.
Tell us about the areas of your personal interest that keeps you passionate about your work in Bangladesh and in the NGO sector in general.
I think for me, I'm very committed to women's empowerment. I'm very driven by CARE's goal of defending dignity and fighting poverty. For me, I think everybody has a right to dignity, and I think poverty is an injustice. Poverty is an indignity on people's lives.
Exactly.
I really am motivated to eradicate violence against women, children in general. I think it's a huge negative impact on people's lives and the country.
Well.
And I'm also quite excited about the potential in Bangladesh for engaging with the private sector for development. So I'm really excited by women's empowerment, potential for women's economic empowerment, and working with others who are also interested in the development of country and the promotion of women and their contribution to society.
Well, Ms. Jamie, what are the areas that CARE is working currently in Bangladesh?
Well, you know, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but actually CARE has been in Bangladesh since 1949, so since before Bangladesh was actually Bangladesh. And so we're very proud of this long history in Bangladesh.
Well.
So since that time, we've worked in many different areas. Right now, we work in, for example, health, agriculture value chains, food security, livelihoods, working in the garment sector, working for women's empowerment, working in nutrition, working in the areas of strengthening health systems. The work that we do is very broad, and we're also very committed in our work to doing things like eradicating violence against women too.
Well, how many people are being benefited by CARE? What is CARE's general approach?
Okay, well, you know, CARE's general approach relies on three things. First of all, we're really committed to promoting gender equality and raising women's voice. And we think this is really important because women are actually untapped. Their potential is untapped. So a country can really progress when you actually can bring half or more than half the population into the life of the country. The second area of focus for us is actually inclusive governance.
Governance.
That's right. So really promoting people's ability to engage actively in governance and the issues that affect their own lives, particularly at the local level.
Well.
And the third area is promoting resilience, particularly in Bangladesh. Everybody knows Bangladesh is very prone to cyclones and natural disaster, and great progress has been made in this area over the last 20 or 30 years. But it's important that people are able to overcome disaster and are able to not lose some of the gains they've made in their lives and continue to actually build a path to development and success.
Well, you are talking about gender equity. Tell us more about the right-based approach and the gender focus that CARE is known for us.
Okay. So we believe it's important to put women at the centre of the work that we do, because we believe that there will be greater gains for success if we directly work with women. Of course, we also work with men, boys and girls as well. But by focusing on women, we're able to actually have greater gains. So what does that mean? I think for us, one of the greatest things we notice is women's contribution is undervalued. People don't recognise it, don't acknowledge it, don't understand the huge impact that women have on
They're
the
not
lives of the
valued.
country. Absolutely, they're not valued.
But things are changing, it's developing.
That's right, things are changing, and they need to continue to change.
Exactly.
For example, we know that there is a high rate, unfortunately, still of stunting and wasting inside Bangladesh. And we know through other research in South Asia that these nutritional outcomes, these negative nutrition outcomes like high rates of stunting and wasting in children, are very much related to the low status of women. So working with women and increasing the status of women is not actually just a nice thing to do. It's incredibly important if we want to improve the lives of children, to actually have them have greater benefits as adults and improve the status of Bangladesh. It's really important that we work to increase the status of women and do everything we can to give them the ability to contribute to the economy, to contribute to the lives of their children, and actually live with equality and dignity.
What are some of flagship programs of CARE Bangladesh? Which achievement are you most proud of?
You know, I was very excited to come to Bangladesh. I think I arrived in 2009.
2009.
That's right. And back then, one of the projects that we worked with was called the Cost of Violence Against Women's Initiative. And I was very excited to come and work in Bangladesh for that reason, because it was a great opportunity to really work with the community and actually do some research and analysis on what exactly is the cost of violence to the country, what's the cost of violence to a family, to the community, and actually understand from this that violence against women and children, it's it's not something that has no consequence. It has a consequence, not just on the lives of the women and her children, but on the entire family.
Well,
there is actually people pay an economic price as well as a personal, social, and an emotional price.
Well,
and it's a huge cost to the country. If Bangladesh didn't have to spend so much money on dealing with the consequences of violence, that's money that could be used to actually promote the economy and put into more productive aspects of the work. Currently we have a number of flagship programs in Bangladesh. One many people may be familiar with, it's called Shahado, which is funded by both USAID and actually the government of Bangladesh. And that's a very large project that works across 8 districts.
8 districts.
And will work with 549,000 beneficiaries to really look at improving nutritional outcomes, to improve the status of women, to really improve local governance, and basically work to eradicate food security and improve livelihoods in Bangladesh. So Shahado is a program that's been going Shahado, yes, for over 10 years, and we're very excited about this next stage. We also have a great partnership with GSK.
GSK.
That's right, where we use a public-private partnership model in Sunamganj to really develop a group of community health workers to actually work alongside government health workers to improve the health outcomes for women in particular in the community in Sunamganj. We're very excited about that. We have great work in the RMG sector where we really work.
RMG sector.
That's right, where we really work to actually improve women's capabilities and leadership capabilities. So hopefully they can contribute and also be acknowledged for the work and their contribution to the industry, and also hopefully get promoted in the future, while also increasing the productivity actually of the factories in which they work. And finally, I'm also excited about our project in Ghazipur, which is called Building Urban Resilience.
Building Urban Resilience.
That's right. So we're really learning about how to work with communities there and also work with women to actually improve their ability to actually engage in disaster
This
risk
project
reduction.
in basis on Ghazipur.
That's right.
Based on Ghazipur.
Based in Ghazipur. I've just been to Ghazipur a few times in the last couple of weeks, visiting our projects, getting to know Ghazipur. And
you're excited?
I'm excited about the work. I think there's a lot of great things that we do, a really fantastic contribution that we make. However, I also see how difficult people's lives are, how many challenges there are actually if you're poor, if you're working hard to live in Ghazipur, to think about how we can better perhaps improve the environment as well as improve people's lives. There are many challenges. There are many challenges for not just CARE, but for everybody who is committed to improving the situation in Bangladesh.
In your opinion, how far has Bangladesh come in projecting the voice of the poor, of the marginalized, and of women in general?
I think everybody will tell you that great progress has been made. I think Bangladesh has actually gone a long way to meeting a lot of the Millennium Development Goals, and there's lots of commitment to the new goals that are being developed. However, I think there is still a long way to go to really actually hear the voices of the poor and of marginalised women and actually start to make changes to allow them to actually participate more fully in society, and more importantly, to enable them to actually move up the ladder, to stop being poor. I think one problem that faces women in Bangladesh is often just what I would consider a basic discrimination actually against women, where there is an idea that women are not capable. And I think this very much actually limits women's ability to actually participate or engage. And I think the more we understand that women are capable and can be capable, the more women will become capable in the future. So if people start to believe in you, you can start to believe in yourself, and you can actually build your confidence. Right now it's very hard when you're not given that opportunity to actually participate as fully as you can. So I think this is what will happen in Bangladesh in the future. People will actually see the contribution of women, of the poor. There'll be more opportunities, and hopefully, gradually, we won't have to talk about extreme poverty in Bangladesh.
Well, Ms. Jimmy, we'll talk more after a short break. দর্শক দেখছেন RTV নিয়মিত আলোচনা অনুষ্ঠান ফোর্থরাইট। এই পর্যায়ে নিচ্ছি বিরতি, ফিরছি একটু পরে, সে পর্যন্ত আমাদের সাথেই থাকুন। দর্শক, আবারও আমন্ত্রণ ফোর্থ রাইট অনুষ্ঠানে। আজকে কথা বলছিলাম কেয়ার বাংলাদেশের কান্ট্রি ডিরেক্টর মিস জেমি তারজির সঙ্গে। ওয়েলকাম এগেইন মিস জেমি অ্যাট RTV স্টুডিও। What are the 3 key lessons learned while working in NGO sectors of Bangladesh?
For me, it's very important that we look to have partnerships with the right people. That is, I think, partnerships with the community, partnerships with the government, and looking across at private sector as well. So I think we cannot work towards development alone. This is not the job of NGOs, actually, it's the job of everybody. So partnerships are critical for success. Another key lesson learned for me is just how important it is to get back to the basics. So earlier, we talked about the status of women. And I think the absolute fundamental thing we have to do is actually to more adequately recognise women's contribution and recognise the value of women's work. I think that will be critical, actually. It's the first step in actually allowing women to engage in a more meaningful way in Bangladesh. Perhaps the third area, actually, is about making sure that we really understand the work that we do and create the right kind of evidence. We really need to be clear about the impact we have and actually speak to that so we can replicate that in other ways. So I think it's really important to generate evidence and really learn from that.
How do you evaluate Bangladesh current status in terms of women empowerment, what the poverty reduction, social business and human rights?
Okay, there's a lot of things in that group that you just mentioned, so let me see if I can take them one by one.
One by one.
So I think in terms of poverty eradication, a lot of work has been done, and Bangladesh is certainly moving in the right direction. I think now we really have to focus on actually getting rid of the remaining worst parts of extreme poverty. So I think that takes a new kind of focus and making sure we really rid ourselves of the need to talk about extreme poverty, and that will also mean eradicating things like stunting and wasting that we talked about before. In terms of women in the country, I think it's fantastic. There are a lot of emerging women who are role models for other women in society, and the more women take up these positions of leadership, I think it gives everybody an idea that women can do the job and actually improve. But to be honest, I still think there's a long way to go. I think really Bangladesh quite often ranks fairly low in terms of the status of women compared to other countries. So a lot of work continues to be needed, and we also need to actually be clearer about the fact, as I said earlier, that working with women and improving women's rights, it's not something we do for no reason. It is actually an essential part of development, as well as just being a basic human right issue. You talked about social business. Well, I think we know that Bangladesh actually leads the way in social business. So that's fantastic. It's certainly something that CARE is very committed to, and we have a number of social businesses that we have been growing and promoting and looking forward to the impact that they have in many different ways, from working on rural distribution systems to actually reviving indigo in Bangladesh and really promoting some of the detailed quality craftsmanship inside the country, to also looking at things like developing a network of agro-input businesses across the country. So I think there's a lot of scope and a lot of potential for social business to really grow inside Bangladesh, and also for Bangladesh to model that for the world.
What is CARE doing in the new areas of development, especially social business and projects in disaster or climate changes?
Those are two areas that are very important to CARE. and areas that we've already been doing quite a bit of work in and are committed to actually promoting and engaging in the future. So I already mentioned that in social business we're very committed to actually coming up with new and innovative models to actually respond to the needs of the community and some of the problems that exist in Bangladesh. So we already have 3 social businesses that we've created or are working on, and we have lots of ideas actually for other social businesses that can come in the future. Now, in terms of disaster risk reduction and resilience, we're also really interested in continuing to explore what are the requirements in urban areas, what needs to be done different in urban areas as opposed to rural areas. Of course, the need in rural areas is also great, and we'd like to focus on both, but really apply some of the learnings to urban areas because the population is increasingly urbanized. I think everybody is concerned about what would happen if there was an earthquake in Dhaka, for example. The impacts could be huge, would be huge. So I think it's up to all of us to really start working with the community and each other to actually make sure that we're prepared and we can mitigate against any negative impacts of disaster.
Well, Ms. Jimmy, we are almost end of the program. Where do you see Bangladesh in the next 5 years, and how does CARE aim to be a part of this vision?
I think we all know that Bangladesh is on track to become a middle income country, and that is a very worthy aspiration. I think it's really
2021.
2021, that's right. It's not that far away, it's only 5 years away.
Exactly.
So I think for us the challenge is how do we bring as many Bangladeshis along in that aspiration. So we want to make sure that as we work towards becoming a middle income country, that actually you have less and less people in poverty. So that's going to remain the challenge. Even if the country develops, how can we bring women, bring the poor, bring the marginalised up and actually eradicate these problems? So I think CARE very much sees that it has a role to play actually to work with others, whether it's civil society, private sector or the government, to really find new models and ways of actually doing development better, smarter, more effectively to actually eradicate some of these difficult problems that remain.
Any final thoughts you want to share with our viewers?
No, I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. It's been great, and I can tell you that after 66, 67 years of working in the country, CARE is very much committed to Bangladesh, and this is one of the oldest countries that CARE has been working in. And you know, we see ourselves having a role in the future development of Bangladesh and look forward to working with everybody who shares that commitment.
We also look forward, and thank you very much for being with us, and we'll happy to see you again here in our RTV studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. দর্শক, বিশ্বজুড়ে অন্যতম বৃহৎ মানবিক সাহায্য সংস্থা হিসেবে কাজ করছে কেয়ার। সংস্থাটি বাংলাদেশে 6 দশকেরও বেশি সময় ধরে দারিদ্র্য বিমোচন, দুর্যোগ ব্যবস্থাপনা, নারীর ক্ষমতায়ন সহ স্বাস্থ্য ও পুষ্টির বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্রে অবদান রেখে চলেছে। সংস্থাটির বাংলাদেশ প্রধানের কথা সূত্র ধরে আমরা বলতে চাই, কেয়ার বাংলাদেশের চলমান লিঙ্গ বৈষম্যের মতো প্রকল্পগুলো বিশ্বের কাছে রোল মডেল হিসেবে উত্থাপিত হবে, সেই প্রত্যাশায় শেষ করছি আজকের ফোর্টরাইট। এতক্ষণ আমাদের সঙ্গে থাকার জন্য ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে।